Okay, so people seem to want a tutorial on how to do the Shang-Chi and the 10 rings kind of blender animation that I did. And I'm just going to cover making the rig for Blender today because I'm pretty short on time. And realistically, all the other stuff you can find sort of out and about. This is literally just going to be how to make an easy to control rig. Yeah, so compositing and stuff you'll be able to find in other places, and tracking and replacing, animating, all that sort of stuff. There are plenty of resources all over the internet to be able to do those things. This is purely going to be for making the rig that you can then use to composite over the top. I'm just going to assume that, again, I'm going to assume that most people watching this video have a comprehension of how to do modeling in Blender and all the UI and controls and whatnot. If not, go watch some Ian Hubert tutorials or some Blender Guru, get the basics, come back over here. So we're just going to start with making the rings. So we're just going to get rid of the default cube, and we're going to have a cylinder and make it sort of ring shaped. So if you press Shift D to duplicate, you get a different version of this. So if you then say were to edit this first ring, nothing would happen to the other ring. But if we undo a few times, if you hold Alt and press D to Alt duplicate, you duplicate an instance of it. So it shares the same object data. So if I go into edit mode and I change one ring, it changes both of them. So let's sort of see how it goes down. If we Alt duplicate it, and is it Shift R to repeat? Yeah, Shift R to repeat a few times. So now we've got 5 rings. We're just going to do the one arm. Got 5 rings, all showing the same object data. So hopefully any changes made will apply to all of them. Again, this is all stuff that I'm not here to teach you how to do bump mapping and stuff like that. Go look at how to make displacements and whatnot. We're just going to apply the textures straight on there, and we're going to just do a UV. We're going to do a cube projection because we're feeling particularly lazy. Going to check the UV on there, so it's using the UV, and then hopefully we get a relatively even bump map. And then we will make another material on there, and this we'll call this runes. Why not? Grab all of the sides. We're going to do no, we're not going to do an inset over that because it will all inset in the same place. We're just going to do the middle one first. We're going to inset it, bring it in, hold Alt, press E, extrude faces along normals, bring it in again. It's the sort of middle. Do the same along the top and the bottom, hold Alt, and then hold Alt and Shift to select both of those. I just got here we go, image, history of Chinese characters. So it wasn't kanji, it was Chinese, which might also be kanji. I'm not particularly well literate or cultured. But I just had this image, so I'm just going to drag this image in there. And we kind of want some of the text to line up a bit, so we can hold Shift and tweak some of the scaling to sort of bring it in a bit. That's quite nice there. That's it looking on the top. Sure, that's fine. Again, it doesn't line up with the ring of it, but not particularly, especially not in my case. You don't particularly see them very up close. And then what we can do is we can we'll invert it, go the other way around because we want the letters to be the bit that are glowing. And then we'll just pump that into what we want the emission to be. Pick a color we want. I did blue before. Let's do sort of a bit more of let's do the red this side, this time. Do this red, let's bump the emission strength up, 5, maybe 10, why not? Yeah, the longer you take your time on something, the better it's going to look. Realistically, if you want to spend 5 years making this clip and just ending up making Shang-Chi 2, go for it. I'm not going to stop you, but I need to be in work within sort of 2 hours. So I'm just going to keep going. It's entirely up to you. So now hopefully when we go into this and we check the material preview, if I unhide the other rings, hopefully they should all have the all have the material on there. Hey, look at that, wonderful. Right, so they're all sort of relatively equidistant as well. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to rotate them along the 3D cursor because I just like things being on their side. That's cool. Add a curve. We're going to add a Bezier curve. So we don't actually want the curve to be curved as it was. So we'll take this handle, we'll scale it by 0 on the Y, so it's flat. You can tell when a path is a bit squashed by the sort of distance of the arrows. You can see the arrows on this right hand side are further apart than the arrows on this left. So we can scale this up a bit, or it's this one. This one's just bigger. Scale this down a bit so they're a bit more equidistant. And then we're going to subdivide it to add a control in the middle as well. And then what we want to do is let's just grab all of it, move it along the X so it's sort of in the middle. It's hard to tell when you're scaling lines because obviously there's a whole grid. Stop! Wait a second! Make sure to apply the scale of the curve, otherwise you run into a whole bunch of issues later down the line, as you will see further in the video. Alright, thank you. But we've made this sort of long enough to sit on all of the rings. You can't animate the points of a path. So we want to give it some hooks. So you select one, you go Control H, hook to new object, that's made one. Wicked. Middle point, Control H, hook to new object, another one. End point, Control H, hook to new object. Yes, Control H is the shortcut to create a new hook. Yes, Control H is also the shortcut I use for my facepalm clip. No, I will not be fixing it. Good day. Should have done that first. We may have some issues down the line because I forgot to apply scale. Always apply scale. But while you're in object mode, so now when we move these empties, it moves the curve. And hopefully if you scale this empty as well, it sort of is the extremity, how extreme the curvature is. So what we're going to do is we're just going to give them some names. So we're going to have this one main control, mid control, base control. Cool. So now what we want to do is we need a way of attaching the rings to the curve. Now there's lots of different ways to do this. Usually a curve modifier would be the way to do it. However, if we were to attach them using a curve modifier, you'd make an array instead of having individual objects and you'd attach it along a curve. However, when you do that, things start to deform as you sort of stretch it out. So when you would go for a punch with the rings, they would end up distorting and deforming because that's how it works. We're going to add not a modifier, we're going to add a constraint and we're going to set it to follow a path and we're going to say follow the curve. Why is it so far out that way? Come back. It's because all the locations are they're all in the wrong place. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that all of the origins are in the same place effectively. And then we want all of the rings to also be on the cursor because they're all going to use different sort of methods, different integers along the curve. So we're going to get cylinder, which one do we have? Cylinder 4, follow path, target the curve. Fixed position and then offset factor. There we go. Okay. So we'll have cylinder 4 at the back. Sure. So what we're going to do is, because there's 5, we're going to go through sort of divisions of like even divisions, but we're going to have nothing at the back. So we're going to start with 0.2 and then with cylinder 3 we're going to do the same thing. We're going to give follow path, we're going to select the curve, fixed position, and we're going to give it the offset of 0.4. I think you can probably see where I'm going with this. Cylinder 2, we're going to go follow path, give it the curve, fixed position, 0.6, follow the curve, fixed position, 0.8, follow path, curve, fixed position, 1. There we go. So now we have the rings attached to the curve. So that means when we pull the curve around with the hook, it actually stretches them out. So say you go for a punch, you swing forwards, and then it goes bang, comes out. There you go. You've got control of this. And so you want it to sort of like swing around a bit, you can bring that, rotate around a bit, then we take the midpoint, we can push that out and scale it out a bit as well. Of course, the hook is using the origin point as its position, so that's not what we want. There we go, location to deltas, not visual transform. Control A, location to deltas, Control A, location to deltas. And then we're going to make a big empty, an empty circle. Scale that up. And then we're going to parent everything except for the cylinders. We're going to take main control, mid control, main control, base control, curve, main control, base control, curve. Shift click on the empty. We're going to parent it to that empty, and then this will be the master. So now when we move this empty around, it's going to bring stuff with it, and then we can control the rings from wherever. But also the good thing about this is, so you have this main rig that you can then just like have attached to your arm, just hand animate it. But also you can just have the rings animate. If you go to the constraint, you animate the influence of this to turn off. You then have full control of this ring and animate it however you want. And then when you want to bring it back on the arm, you slam the influence back up and it will return to its original position. So let's go to the main keyframe of location and rotation. You'd get your source footage in, you'd match it up, get a camera, I keyframe, and we're going to bring it up. We'll save there. Prepares for the swing, I keyframe, and then we'll bring it, bam, and it'll go down for the punch. So then we'll have the timing of it there. I keyframe on that. Wonderful. So now that comes up, bang. Let's make that a bit quicker. And then you would take this controller and you would keyframe it just before. So bang. Let's move back to as it's coming down. I for a keyframe. However long you want it to take. So we'll go have it nice and quick. And then we'll drag this out to like the camera, where the camera is, so we can see the last ring. Bang, that comes out, there's the ring. And then we'll have it just Alt-G back to its original position. Another keyframe. Bang, comes out, comes back in. Wonderful. And then, of course, you can animate the individual rotations. We'll say it like spins around a bit. I don't know why it's deforming weirdly. I'll tell you why it's deforming weirdly. I didn't apply the scale of the curve. Always apply your scales. It's really important. So this is going to look really trippy. So that's going to be there, and then while it's sort of there, it's going to deform weirdly a little bit. And then as it comes back, Alt-R to reset the rotation, which for some reason is down there. Again, you need to make sure you apply things, otherwise this stuff happens. Yeah, I don't know what's happened to this ring. Apply your scales, damn it. So now, when we're in the camera, come out, and the ring is going to come spinning out, and then it's going to go back in, which is going to look very strange because the scales were not applied. We'll do the same for another ring, and it's going to go disco and weird as well. I'm excited. How will it deform this time? I'm just double tapping R, by the way, to get the trackball rotation. That's a bit much. That's a bit much on the rotation sense. Let's just slow it down a bit. So this now punches out. Bang. It was very weird because didn't apply my scales. Always apply your scales. Whenever you sort of like set something to a base position, so you get the rings in the right place where you want them to be. Apply scale, apply rotation. Applying location makes things go a bit weird with the constraints, so I wouldn't necessarily do that. So it doesn't go skew-whiffy like this. I bet what happens if we apply the scale to the curve now? There we go. Now the scale to the curve is actually applied. I reckon the distortion is no longer a problem. No, because we're not scaling on a weird axis. Look, they're no longer getting distorted, they're just spinning. There we go, now it's not distorting. But the rotations are still in the wrong place because I didn't apply the rotation to the rings when I turned them on their side. You get the hang of it. Well, I hope this has provided some sort of insight to anything that any of you guys were actually after. Feel free to leave any comments for any further questions you have. If there's anything else about the rest of the process that you don't understand, may make a part 2 of the tutorial. But of course, this one went a bit wobbly. But, you know, there's no right answers in art. Right, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. This was a live stream, so thank you for everyone who joined me. I will put the link up. Go follow, and you'll be able to catch the tutorials when they happen live, and ask questions while I'm here. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.